What if the quiet made you overlook every day was hiding a life far more powerful than your own? Before you judge a person's silence, watch what unfolds when truth, sacrifice, and love collide in the most unexpected way. Stay with us because this story will challenge what you think you know about generosity, trust, and the heart behind the hustle. And tell us in the comments, have you ever misjudged someone only to be surprised by their truth?
Hello guys, I hope you enjoyed our stories. Please hit the like button, leave a comment below and subscribe to our channel.
The opulent Manhattan penthouse of David Okoro, a man whose wealth cast long, silent shadows, felt unnervingly still. It was almost 6 p.m., and the setting New York City sun bled orange across the skyline, a stark contrast to the tightening knot in David's gut. From his upstairs window, a vantage point of quiet surveillance, he saw her, Amara, his maid, a figure of unassuming grace, hurried down the front steps, 2 nylon bags clutched tight. Her haste was unusual, a flicker of something hidden. He descended to the balcony, his voice cutting through the evening air, firm with an undercurrent of suspicion. "Amara, wait!" She froze, a small, involuntary flinch. Her eyes, when she turned, widened with a surprise that felt too genuine, too practiced. "Yes, sir. Did I forget something?" she asked, her fingers nervously adjusting the bags. David stepped out, his face a mask of calm. But his mind raced, a predator sensing an elusive prey. The bags not heavy, but full. "What's inside those?" he asked, his gaze fixed on her face, searching for a tell. Amara offered a small, hesitant smile. "Just some things I picked up at lunchtime. Groceries." He said nothing, his silence a heavy weight. He studied her, the subtle tremor in her hands, the flicker in her eyes. Something didn't feel right. "You've been leaving early a lot lately," he pressed, always with the same excuse, "Your auntie's sick." Amara's nod was too quick, too eager. "Yes, sir. I told you before she's not been well. I'm trying my best." David moved closer, closing the distance, his presence dominating the space. "I overheard you on the phone yesterday, speaking in your native dialect. You mentioned needing urgent money." He paused, letting the words hang in the air, a deliberate trap. "Are you hiding something, Amara?" Her eyes blinked rapidly, her grip tightening on the bags until her knuckles showed white. I don't understand what you mean." "I'm not asking." David's tone sharpened, a blade cutting through the pretense. "I'm telling you something's going on." The space between them crackled with unspoken tension. For a few agonizing seconds, neither moved. Amara looked down, then slowly, defiantly, lifted her chin. "Sir, if you don't trust me, maybe you should find someone else to clean your house." And with that, she turned, a silent rebuke, and walked out the gate. Her sandals made soft, retreating sounds on the pavement as she vanished down the street, leaving David alone in the vast, suddenly emptier silence of his mansion. He stood still, hands shoved deep into his pockets, jaw tight, echoes of doubt. Inside his massive house, the silence screamed louder than usual. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, but the amber liquid offered no solace. He stared out at the endless labyrinth of Brooklyn streets, his mind a whirlwind of suspicion and old wounds. Years of betrayal, of friendships bought and sold, had taught him a brutal lesson. Money attracted enemies, not peace. And now Amara, the quiet girl who cleaned his kitchen and watered his plants, seemed to be another betrayal waiting to unfold. He detested mysteries, especially when they touched his carefully constructed world. He needed the truth, whatever its cost. The night wore on, hushed and heavy. The mansion was a cavern of shadows, pierced only by the faint glow of David's laptop screen. The rhythmic tick of the wall clock and the distant honk of a car were the only sounds disturbing the oppressive quiet. David sat hunched at his desk, staring at Amara's employee file. Her details were mundane. Amara Okonkwo, 26, from Philadelphia, 9 months in his employ, references checked, ID verified. Yet, A persistent unease gnawed at him. Her evening routines were conspicuously blank. He hadn't noticed before, but now, scrutinizing the file, he saw the gaps. Unexplained early departures, weekend absences, no mention of her after-work activities. "Too clean," he whispered, the words echoing in the vast room. Too simple. A flicker of guilt pricked him. Amara had always been polite, quiet, efficient. She performed her duties without complaint. But another, colder part of him, forged by past deceptions, refused to let go. He remembered a small detail. Earlier that week, caught in a sudden downpour, Amara had arrived soaked. She'd shed her coat, hanging it on the hallway rack. Without thinking, David had offered to move it to dry, and as he reached into the pocket, his fingers brushed against a small, folded receipt. Now, driven by an instinct he couldn't ignore, David rose and walked to the coat rack. The crumpled bank slip was still there. He unfolded it slowly, the faint ink blurring before his eyes. $200 transferred to an account in Philadelphia. The name, Ngozi Okonkwo. His chest tightened. Her auntie. Was she telling the truth after all? Or was this merely another layer of deception? He laid the slip on the polished table, taking a long, ragged breath. "Tomorrow," he vowed, "I will ask her." But even as the words formed, a part of him knew she wouldn't yield easily. Amara, with her quiet demeanor, was a master of secrets. The more he sought to understand her, the more she slipped away, a ghost in his own house. She was just a maid. Yet, why did it feel as though her story held so much more? A silent epic waiting to be uncovered. The pursuit. Friday evening descended, cloaked in the familiar routine of the mansion. Amara, her movements precise and practiced, finished mopping the dining room floor. She turned to David, her voice soft, almost a murmur. "Sir, I'll be leaving now. My auntie has a hospital checkup early tomorrow. I also have some things to handle tonight." David nodded, his face a carefully crafted mask of neutrality. "All right, take care." But the moment the door clicked shut behind her, he snatched his car keys. A relentless urgency coiled within him. Too many questions, too many shadows. She had the evening off, yet still had things to handle. What things? Where was she truly going? 18 minutes later, David was settled in his black SUV, parked discreetly down the road from his mansion. The seats were reclined, a strategic precaution against recognition. Amara, a small bag clutched in her hand, walked quickly, her steps purposeful, almost driven. No taxi, no rideshare. Instead, she boarded a local bus, its destination, Queens. David's eyes narrowed. Queens, a world away from Manhattan's polished avenues. He started the engine, following the bus at a cautious distance, a silent hunter in the urban jungle. The traffic lights seemed endless, a series of red warnings in his path. The air hung thick with the chaotic symphony of New York City, the distant shouts of vendors, the smoke from roadside food carts, the palpable tension of a city constantly in motion. But David registered none of it. His focus was singular, unwavering. The bus, and the quiet figure by the window, staring out at a world unknown to him. Over an hour later, the bus lumbered to a halt on a crowded street, narrow and choked with faded shop signs. Amara disembarked, merging with the throng, and walked past a row of nondescript buildings. One, its paint peeling like ancient skin, bore a small, almost illegible sign above its door. David squinted through the deepening twilight. Harlem Heights Community Kitchen. Evening meals program. He parked on the opposite side of the street, waiting, observing. From his vantage point, he could peer through the grimy glass windows. The place was small, worn, yet pulsed with a vibrant energy. And then he saw her, a sight that struck him with the force of an unexpected blow. Amara stood at the front of a small group of volunteers, not cleaning, not hiding, but coordinating. She smiled gently, speaking to a diverse gathering of older men and women, some clutching empty food containers, others listening intently. She gave simple instructions. "Serve the jollof rice carefully," she said slowly, gesturing to steaming pots. The volunteers, their accents thick, their faces eager, repeated her words. Amara moved among them, helping, guiding. He even saw her laugh, a soft, genuine sound he'd never once heard within the silent walls of his home. When an elderly man struggled with the pronunciation of egusi, she knelt beside him, patiently correcting him. David watched, transfixed, and something inside him irrevocably shifted. This wasn't a clandestine life. This was a testament to sacrifice. This was a woman who left his mansion at sunset, not for rest or recreation, but to offer sustenance, hope, and kindness to those who possessed almost nothing. And in that moment, every shard of his suspicion shattered, replaced by a profound, piercing shame, the anonymous benevolence. That night, David sat in his study, the laptop screen casting a cold glow on his face. Sleep was an impossible luxury. He replayed the scene at the kitchen. Amara's patience, her selfless love, the quiet dignity with which she served. It was a side of her he'd never witnessed. In his house, she was a silent shadow. In that humble kitchen, she was pure light. Who is she, truly? He wondered. And why had he never bothered to ask? He began to dig, typing the name from the building sign into his search engine. A rudimentary website appeared, simple, poorly designed, but functional. A donation link, a few blurry photos, and a small About Us page. He clicked. The text was stark. "We offer free hot meals and food packages to low-income families and new arrivals from various countries. Many of our beneficiaries were cooks or small-scale vendors who lost their livelihoods. We believe in second chances." Below, the photos. Amara, a recurring presence, smiling, hugging families, distributing meals. In one, she handed out plates of rice and stew. In another, she taught adults to prepare traditional dishes. Then he saw it. "We run entirely on small donations and personal funds. Currently, we are behind on utility payments. Volunteers provide ingredients and supplies with their own money." David leaned back, a bitter taste in his mouth. The shopping bags, the groceries weren't for herself. They were for these people. A sharp sting in his chest. She had never asked him for help. Not once. She had left his 5-bedroom mansion every night to serve those who had nothing, while he had suspected her of stealing. He snatched his phone and called Connell, his assistant, his confidant. "Do a full search on the Harlem Heights Community Kitchen," David commanded, his voice raw. "I need to know how much they owe, their running costs, how many people they serve weekly." Connell's voice was laced with surprise. "Boss, are you okay?" David's reply was a quiet confession. "No, but I want to be." The next morning, Connell's report landed in David's inbox. A stark portrait of struggle. The kitchen was barely clinging to existence. 2 months overdue on utility payments, cooking equipment faltering, refrigerators leaking. No steady sponsor. Amara was listed as a lead volunteer, unpaid. And the most shocking revelation: she worked 3 jobs. His maid, 5 days a week, a weekend cashier at a small grocery store, and the tireless, unpaid coordinator at the kitchen. David stared at the screen, the stark contrast searing into his mind. His house, a monument to luxury and silence. Her world, a crucible of struggle, need, yet overflowing with an inexplicable joy. He had misjudged her entirely. Amara Okonkwo wasn't a liar. She was something far rarer, something profound, a giver.
Hello guys, I hope you enjoyed our stories. Please hit the like button, leave a comment below and subscribe to our channel.
The unveiling. The next morning, a deceptive calm settled over the mansion. A soft breeze, carrying the faint scent of rain, drifted through the open kitchen window. Amara was already there, a silent sentinel, meticulously wiping counters, folding dish towels. She didn't expect David. He rarely descended so early. But today he walked in, coffee mug in hand, his face a study in thoughtful introspection. "Good morning, Amara," he said softly, the words carrying a weight that surprised her. Amara turned quickly, her movements startled. "Good morning, sir. I was just finishing here. I'll get out of your way." David didn't move, his gaze unwavering. "Actually, could you sit for a moment? I'd like to talk to you." She paused, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes, then nodded, drying her hands on her apron. She sat on the edge of a dining chair, a silent question in her posture. David took the seat opposite, took a slow sip of his coffee, then met her gaze directly. "I know about the Harlem Heights Community Kitchen." Amara froze, her breath catching in her throat, a deer caught in headlights. "Sir, I don't know what you mean." "I followed you," David said quietly, his voice laced with a raw honesty. "The other night when you said you were working late." He looked down, a tremor of shame running through him. "I didn't trust you. I thought you were hiding something. And I was right, but not in the way I expected." Tears welled in Amara's eyes. "You followed me." David nodded. "I saw you coordinating, helping those people, carrying food, speaking kindly, smiling like I'd never seen you smile before." Amara looked down at her lap, her fingers trembling uncontrollably. "I wasn't trying to hide it. I just didn't think it mattered." "It matters," David repeated, his voice firm. Silence descended, not uncomfortable now, but heavy with unexpressed emotion. David leaned forward. "I read about the kitchen. I saw the photos. I know you work there every evening. I know you also clean houses downtown and work weekend shifts at a grocery store. All of that just to keep that kitchen alive." Amara wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I couldn't just leave them," she said, her voice a fragile whisper. "Most of them never had a chance to cook their own food. They were displaced farmers, vendors, but they're proud. They want to learn how to prepare meals so they can feed their families or just feel like they belong." David listened, his own heart aching with a newfound empathy. Amara continued, her voice cracking with suppressed emotion. "That kitchen is all they have. Sometimes I use my little salary here to buy ingredients and supplies for them. I don't have much, but I can't walk away." David's heart constricted. Years he had spent building impenetrable walls, convinced that trust was a dangerous illusion, that every soul harbored a hidden agenda. But this girl, this quiet, unassuming girl who swept his floors and watered his plants, possessed a heart he'd believed no longer existed. "Amara," he said softly, "you've given more than most people who have 10 times your salary." She looked up, startled. "Sir," David offered a faint, almost shy smile. "I just wanted you to know. I see you now." A miracle unfolds. For days later, Amara stepped into the worn building of the Harlem Heights Community Kitchen, its faded paint and rusted gate a familiar sight. She had barely set down her bags when Mama Bose, the elderly coordinator, burst in, her hands trembling with excitement. "Amara, Amara, come and see," she cried, breathless. Amara, wiping her forehead, rushed to her side. "What's wrong, Mama Bose?" Mama Bose, a printed bank statement clutched like a banner, waved it wildly. 50,000, she shouted, her voice thick with disbelief. 50,000, child. An anonymous donation came in this morning. Can you believe it? Amara froze. 50,000? She whispered, her eyes wide. Yes, It came through the foundation's bank account around 7 a.m. No name, no message, just "We believe in your mission." That's all. Amara's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes blurring with tears. For a few suspended seconds, the world stopped. Then, a soft, disbelieving laugh escaped her. A sound of pure relief and wonder. "God! Oh God! You heard me," she murmured. "You really heard me." That evening, the kitchen buzzed with a joyous cacophony. Plans erupted. Fixing the leaking refrigerators, acquiring new cooking equipment, a proper pantry, extra ingredients for the next season, even small stipends for the dedicated volunteer cooks. Amara's smile was boundless. She stood at the front of the kitchen, helping old Papa Cunnel prepare a pot of soup. "I feel hope in my hands," she read aloud, guiding his movements. "Say it with me," she urged gently. As Papa Cunnel slowly, proudly, repeated the words, Amara felt an expansion in her chest. Hope. Real, tangible hope. Across the street, hidden behind tinted windows, David sat in his parked SUV. He watched her, clearly visible through the glass. The radiant smile she bestowed upon her volunteers, the patient encouragement she offered, the way her entire being vibrated with purpose and joy. He didn't need her to know. He didn't crave a thank you. Seeing her like this, happy, vibrant, radiating light, was more than enough. He had transferred the $50,000 early that morning, quietly, anonymously, no strings attached. And now, watching from the shadows, a quiet warmth spread through his chest, a sensation he'd once believed money alone could buy, and never had, until now. Unseen bonds. It began subtly, an imperceptible shift in the rhythms of the house. David found himself spending more time at home, not for business, but for an inexplicable pull toward her. Amara, the woman he'd once barely noticed beyond her duties, now drew him in. He invented excuses to enter the kitchen when she was there, timed his coffee breaks to coincide with her arranging fresh flowers. Sometimes, he'd simply sit at the kitchen island, observing her quiet, focused movements, her effortless grace. And gradually, haltingly at first, their conversations deepened, moving beyond chores to touch upon the intricacies of life itself. One Wednesday afternoon, David walked into the kitchen with 2 mugs of tea. "Here," he said, offering one to Amara. "It's chamomile. I thought you might like it." Her blink was one of genuine surprise. "Thank you, sir." He offered a gentle smile. "Please call me David." She hesitated, then a soft chuckle escaped them both at the awkwardness. "Okay, David." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping tea. Then David broke the quiet. "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone here?" Amara turned, her curiosity piqued. "Of course. My parents died when I was 24, car accident late at night, coming back from a business trip." Her eyes softened with immediate understanding. "I'm so sorry." He nodded slowly. "They left me everything. Money, property, staff. But I lost more than I gained. I spent years building walls around myself. I guess I didn't want to lose anyone again." He looked down at his tea. "I thought if I just stayed alone, I'd be safe." Amara spoke quietly, her voice imbued with a deep empathy. "Sometimes we think shutting people out will protect us, but the silence, it just gets louder." He looked at her then, truly looked. "You understand that?" She offered a small, sad smile. "At the kitchen, we're all like that. People who've lost their homes, their families, their land. But we created something together. We became each other's family." David leaned back, absorbing her words. "Chosen family." "Yes," she said softly. "Sometimes the people who love you most aren't the ones you were born to. They're the ones who stay when you have nothing. That night, David sat in his study. The room plunged into darkness save for the glow of the city lights outside. Amara's words echoed in his mind. He thought of her eyes, luminous when she spoke of the kitchen, of her tireless giving, her selfless love for strangers. He had never met anyone like her. And now, without even trying, she had begun to heal something deep within him. The thesis of hope. The city still slept, cloaked in the gentle stillness before the dawn chorus of New York City traffic. David rubbed his eyes as he walked into the kitchen, seeking the comfort of a warm cup of tea. But he wasn't alone. At the small table by the window, bathed in the soft glow of a rechargeable lamp, sat Amara, still in her wrapper, surrounded by books and loose papers. She didn't notice him at first, her lips moving silently as she absorbed words from a handwritten page. She was writing with an intensity that held him spellbound. David cleared his throat gently. Amara startled, looking up with wide eyes. "Oh, good morning, sir. Sorry, I didn't hear you." He stepped closer, his curiosity piqued. "What are you working on?" She made a small, hurried attempt to gather her papers. "It's nothing important, just something I'm trying to finish." David smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. "Amara, you're writing a research paper at 5:30 in the morning. That doesn't look like nothing." She hesitated, then sighed, gently setting down her pen. "I'm writing my final thesis," she confessed. "For school." David blinked. "School? I didn't know you were studying." "I attend evening classes at the community center. After volunteering," she said quietly. "I'm trying to earn my diploma from New York City College." He sat down across from her. "What's your thesis about?" Amara hesitated again, her fingers brushing the cover page. Then she pushed it toward him. David read the title aloud, Invisible Resilience. Why skilled Africans from rural areas are forced into survival jobs in the city. He looked up, surprised, impressed. "This is impressive." Amara offered a shy smile. "It's something I've seen too many times. People who are farmers, artisans in their hometowns, when they move to the city, no one respects their skills anymore. They don't speak enough English, so they end up sweeping floors or selling on the roadside." David nodded slowly, recognizing the truth in her words. "I have seen that happen too," Amara continued, her voice gaining a steady strength. "My friend Mama Ngozi was a trained midwife in Atlanta, but here in New York City she cleans offices. Another man I know, Uncle Chike, used to fix generators and machine engines back in Miami. Here, he's a janitor." Her eyes darkened slightly. "It's not that they're lazy. They're talented, brave, hardworking, but the system doesn't see them." David watched her, deeply moved. The calm passion in her voice, the quiet fire that had been burning within her all this time. "You've really thought this through," he said. Amara looked down. "It's personal. Most people think I'm just a maid, but I want to build something better. I want to start programs that help people get their dignity back, not from scratch, but by building on what they already know." David remained silent for a long moment, then spoke softly. "Amara, you're not just helping people. You're trying to change an entire system." She gave a small, hopeful smile. "I have to try." As David returned to his room that morning, her words resonated within him. Invisible resilience. He had met someone truly extraordinary.
Hello guys, I hope you enjoyed our stories. Please hit the like button, leave a comment below and subscribe to our channel.
The quiet departure. One Friday afternoon, Amara knocked gently on David's study door. His heart sank as he looked up from his laptop. She stood there, a plain envelope in her hand. "I just came to say I'm giving my notice." His throat went dry. 3 weeks? he managed, the words a raw whisper. "You're leaving." She nodded. "Yes, sir. I want to try something new and give the kitchen more of my time." David nodded slowly, a profound weariness settling over him. "Okay." A long, agonizing pause stretched between them. Then Amara added, her voice almost inaudible, "Thank you for everything. For believing in me. For seeing me." He met her gaze, seeing the profound sadness mirrored in her eyes. "Amara," he said softly, "whatever you do next, I know you'll change lives." She offered a tight, tremulous smile. "That means more than you know." The next 3 weeks were an unbearable torment. David, a man who had built his empire on distrust, found himself profoundly missing the presence of a woman still within his walls. He memorized her every movement, the way she glided across the living room, the faint hum she emitted while watering plants, the neat scarf she tied to keep her hair back while cleaning. He yearned to stop her, to tell her she didn't have to go, but he remained silent, unwilling to obstruct her path. One evening, he knocked softly on her door, a manila envelope in his hand. Inside were recommendation letters, glowing, heartfelt, deeply personal. She looked at him, surprised. "These are beautifully written." He managed a faint smile. "They're true." She stared down at the papers, her heart swelling. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep in touch." "I will." They stood in silence again, two souls facing a reluctant goodbye. The grand revelation. For months passed since Amara's quiet departure. David buried himself in work. Board meetings, new investments, relentless expansion. Yet, the mansion felt colder, emptier without her presence. He still found himself listening for her footsteps in the hallway, still reached for a second mug of tea, only to remember she no longer sat across from him. He told himself it was just routine, a lingering habit. But it wasn't. It was absence. It was regret. One Tuesday morning, as David sat at his office desk sifting through a pile of unopened letters, Connell, his assistant, entered. "Sir, this came for you personally. It looks different." He handed over a gold-embossed envelope, sealed with a deep blue wax stamp. David raised an eyebrow, a flicker of curiosity stirring within him. "You are cordially invited to the Harlem Heights Community Kitchen's annual fundraising gala awards ceremony." He continued reading, but his breath hitched, his heart seizing in his chest. "Honoring Miss Amara Okonkwo, Volunteer of the Year, Advocate for Community Nourishment and Inclusion." His hands trembled slightly as he lowered the card. Connell, ever observant, noticed the sudden shift in his demeanor. "Should I RSVP now?" David stared at the invitation, a long, silent moment. "No," he said softly, his voice imbued with a newfound resolve. "Tell them. I'll be there." Gala night. Weeks later, the community kitchen had undergone a miraculous transformation. String lights cascaded from the ceilings, illuminating round tables draped in white cloths and adorned with paper decorations, lovingly handmade by volunteers. Laughter and warm greetings filled the air, a symphony of languages. Igbo, Swahili, Yoruba, Hausa, Akan, Zulu, Pidgin, intermingled with American English. Amara moved through the crowd, a vision of confidence and freedom, checking on last-minute details. As the room began to fill, an elderly woman called out to her, "Amara, look who just walked in." She turned toward the door, and there he was. David, impeccably dressed in a dark gray suit, stood quietly, a hint of uncertainty in his posture, his eyes scanning the room until they met hers across the distance. Her breath caught. Months. It had been months. A love confessed. Later that evening, the MC called her name. A wave of applause erupted as Amara walked to the stage to receive her award. The warm lights bathed her skin, her smile steady despite the frantic pounding of her heart. As she held the plaque, she spoke into the microphone, her voice clear and resonant. "Thank you all. I never thought a simple act of service would lead me here. I used to believe that no one saw me, but now I see all of you. This isn't just my award. It's ours." The crowd roared its approval. David clapped, a quiet pride swelling in his chest. In that moment, a profound realization struck him. He hadn't come merely to witness her triumph. He came because he missed her, because no business deal, no boardroom victory, no overflowing bank account had ever filled the void within him the way her presence did. And tonight, watching her shine, he felt the crushing weight of every unspoken word. The gala began to wind down. Children curled up on chairs, exhausted but happy. Elders leaned back, their faces radiant with contentment. Laughter still rippled through the warm air like music. Amara stood near the entrance, her crystal plaque clutched in her hand, her heart still overflowing. Yet, her mind kept drifting to the man in the gray suit at the back of the room. David. He hadn't approached her yet, simply stood watching. Until now. She turned, and there he was. "Congratulations," he said quietly, his voice a soft caress. "You deserve every bit of that award." She smiled, but her lips trembled uncontrollably. "Thank you for coming." They stood in silence for a beat too long, the space between them charged with unspoken emotions. Then, Amara took a slow, fortifying breath. "There's something I've been wanting to say, even though I didn't know who to say it to." David tilted his head, his gaze unwavering. "What is it?" She held the plaque tighter, her knuckles white. "My auntie, she's well now, completely healthy. She had surgery 4 months ago." David's eyes softened. Amara continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "We were stuck for so long. No hospital would take her without full payment. And just when I thought I'd have to give up." She looked at him, a single tear beginning to form. Someone paid the bill completely. An anonymous donor. David looked down, his hands shoved into his pockets. "That same week," she added, her voice breaking slightly, "the community kitchen received its biggest donation ever, also anonymous." Her voice fractured completely. "I don't know who did it, but if I could ever meet them, I'd tell them they saved my life." A profound silence descended, heavy with unspoken truths. David looked up slowly, and for the first time in months, the carefully constructed walls around his heart crumbled. "Amara, it was me." She blinked, a stunned expression on her face. "What?" He stepped closer, his voice barely a whisper. "I followed you that night when you left early. I thought you were stealing from me." Her mouth opened, but no sound escaped. "I saw you get off the bus. I saw the kitchen. I saw you coordinating, helping people, smiling like I'd never seen you smile before." His voice shook with the weight of his confession. "And I realized in that moment I was wrong. So wrong about everything." Tears streamed down her face. "I made the donation for your auntie's surgery, for the kitchen, because watching you that night, seeing the way you live, how much you give, it changed me." She stared at him, the truth settling in piece by agonizing piece. "You did all that without telling me." "I didn't want credit," he said softly. "I just wanted to help. I wanted to feel like, for once, I was doing something that mattered." "And why tell me now?" David's voice dropped, raw with emotion. "Because I couldn't keep standing in the back of the room pretending I don't care. Because I do, Amara. I care so much it scares me." Her hands trembled. "I didn't ask for charity, David." "It wasn't charity," he whispered, stepping even closer. "It was love." Silence fell again. But this time it was different. Not heavy with unspoken accusations, but full of feeling of truth, of two hearts finally laid bare. Amara stood there, clutching her award, David's words echoing in the air. It wasn't charity, it was love, but she didn't smile. She looked down, shaking her head slowly. I don't know how to feel, she whispered. David's face fell. Amara, you paid my auntie's hospital bill, funded the kitchen, gave me a job offer, and I didn't even know. I thought I was building something on my own, with my own two hands. You were, he said firmly, his voice unwavering. Everything you've built is yours. She looked up, her eyes wet with tears. Then why does it feel like I've just found out someone was holding the ladder the whole time? He stepped closer, his voice soft and steady. Because I saw you climbing alone, and I couldn't just watch anymore. Amara bit her lip, her voice trembling. I've spent most of my life being rescued or used by people who only stepped in when it served them. So forgive me if I don't know how to accept help that isn't a trap. David's eyes darkened with a powerful surge of emotion. I'm not here to control you or to take credit. I did what I did because you changed me. She blinked, confused. What?
Hello guys, I hope you enjoyed our stories. Please hit the like button, leave a comment below and subscribe to our channel.
I was a man who trusted no one, not after what life took from me, not after watching people turn kindness into weakness. He took a ragged breath. But you helped people with nothing to gain. You gave your time, your energy, your food, your heart to people who didn't have a voice. And you never asked for anything back. His voice cracked. You made me realize how empty my world was, how full it could be. That's not pity, Amara. That's admiration. That's love. Amara stood frozen, overwhelmed by the torrent of words, by the raw truth. She searched his eyes, seeking a hint of falsity, but found only honesty, only ache, only love. A long, profound pause. She turned away for a moment, hugging the award to her chest. I was afraid, she said quietly, that if I let you help me, I'd lose the part of myself I work so hard to protect. He stepped forward slowly. And now, she turned back, her voice barely above a whisper. Now I'm afraid of what happens if I don't let you in. For the first time since that night he followed her bus. David smiled, a real, open, hopeful smile. Then let's figure it out together. As the music from the gala played softly in the background, two people who had once lived on opposite sides of the world, money and survival, silence and service, stood face to face, and the vast space between them finally began to close. A new partnership begins. The string lights outside the community kitchen glowed like soft, scattered stars beneath the vast New York City sky. David and Amara stood near the back entrance, just out of view, enveloped by the quiet hum of the night. She still held her plaque, a symbol of her journey. He still held her gaze, a testament to his own. And for the first time in a long, long time, neither of them were pretending. David took a step closer, his presence a warm embrace. Amara, he said slowly, his voice laced with a tremor of profound emotion. I didn't come here tonight just to say congratulations. She raised her eyes, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm. I came because I couldn't keep pretending this was something casual, that what I feel is something I can hide. She said nothing, her breath caught in her throat. I don't want to just date you, he continued, his voice deepening with conviction. I don't want dinner and movie conversations and see you next weekend kind of love. His voice softened, imbued with a powerful sincerity. I want to build something, a life, a mission, partnership, you and me, helping people, lifting others, building a world where no one has to fight alone, like you did. He reached out, gently taking her hand. "I want to be your partner in purpose, your partner in everything." Tears welled in her eyes, and her breath hitched. David smiled gently, hopeful. "What do you say?" Amara didn't answer immediately. She leaned in slowly, naturally, drawn by an invisible force, and pressed her lips softly to his. It was sweet, quiet, undeniably real. When she pulled back, her eyes were shining, luminous with newfound hope. "I say yes," she whispered. He exhaled, a long, profound release, as if he hadn't truly breathed in years. "But first," she added, wiping a tear from her cheek, a playful glint in her eyes, "you have to come meet someone." David tilted his head, a surprised laugh bubbling up. "Who?" She grinned, a radiant smile. "My Auntie Philadelphia." He chuckled, genuinely amused. "Should I be nervous?" "Very," she teased. "She has opinions and questions." David took her hand again, his grip firm, and nodded. "Then let's go to Philadelphia." And just like that, beneath the humble string lights of a community kitchen that had once teetered on the brink of closure, two lives converged. Not through wealth, not through pity, but through the undeniable force of love, shared purpose, and the profound courage to begin anew. The wedding of purpose. 2 months had passed since that quiet night outside the gala. David had kept his word. He traveled to Philadelphia, entering a small living room vibrant with colorful textiles, sturdy wooden chairs, and the curious, assessing gazes of Amara's aunts. He sat, answering every one of Mama Ngozi's insightful questions, his earnestness evident. He ate fufu too slowly, stumbled over polite affirmations, saying no auntie when yes ma'am was due, yet he called her Mama and truly meant it. By the end of the weekend, Mama Ngozi, her face creased with a gentle smile, declared, "He's too formal, but his heart is full. That's enough." Now, the wedding day had arrived, unfolding in the very place where their extraordinary story began, the community kitchen. But it was transformed. The once broken walls shone with fresh, soft white paint. Colorful murals depicting vibrant vegetables, comforting dishes, and smiling faces, all painted by the volunteers themselves, adorned the side walls. A new digital lab, complete with 10 computers, stood ready. A clean pantry, fresh cooking equipment, and children, their laughter echoing through the space, ran about, clutching paper flowers and ribbons. Beneath strings of fairy lights, amidst rows of folding chairs draped in fabric, Amara stood at the back of the hall. She wore a dress passed down through generations, simple lace in a soft yellow, perfectly tailored to her small frame. Her auntie, Mama Ngozi, adjusted her veil with trembling fingers, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Amara smiled, touching her hand, and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me, Mama." The guests, a diverse tapestry of lives, arrived from every corner. Tech executives from David's firm, looking slightly out of place but smiling warmly. Local cooks, whose skills had been rekindled by Amara's programs. Elderly volunteers, who moved slowly but were dressed in their finest. Even little children, their hand-drawn congratulations signs taped proudly to their shirts. Papa Cunnell, who sold produce near the bus stop, arrived with a cooler full of drinks. Everyone who had ever witnessed their struggle or been touched by their kindness was there. No flashy flower arches, no shimmering chandeliers, no meticulous wedding planner. Just a simple wooden platform adorned with baby's breath and white fabric, and a borrowed keyboard playing soft gospel tunes. David stood at the front, in a crisp black suit, his cheeks aching from the sheer force of his smile. When Amara walked down the makeshift aisle, every person rose. Some wept openly, some clapped, David forgot to breathe. When she reached him, they both laughed through tears, a shared moment of pure joy. The officiating pastor kept it short. Their vows, however, were their own words, etched from the depths of their intertwined lives. Amara's vow. I once thought I had to carry everything alone, but you reminded me that love is not a weight. It's a hand to help carry it. I don't just marry you, David. I build with you. I believe with you. David's vow. You showed me that wealth is not in bank accounts, but in the lives we live. I promise to be your teammate, your protector, your partner in purpose. Always. When the crowd shouted, "You may kiss your bride," it felt as if the entire kitchen, the very place they had once saved together, was reborn. And in the middle of it all, Mama Ngozi stood, her hands clasped, her eyes brimming with a quiet peace. Her niece had made it. Love leads the way. A year had passed since that luminous wedding beneath the string lights and the vast sky. David and Amara hadn't paused, hadn't rested. They had simply channeled their love into action. Together, they launched the Okoro Okonkwo Foundation, a powerful blend of their family names, a symbol of merged roots and new beginnings. Their mission was clear: to establish community kitchens, foster sustainable food programs, and provide unwavering support to the underserved across the USA. David meticulously handled the logistics, the strategic planning, the crucial funding, and the vital partnerships. Amara, however, was the heart and soul, leading every other aspect of their burgeoning work. She trained volunteer cooks, her knowledge and passion radiating. She spoke in remote immigrant communities, her voice resonating with authenticity. She sat patiently with grandmothers in overcrowded clinics, listened intently to market vendors in dusty town squares, and always ended with the same profound message. You are seen. You are needed. Your voice matters. Their headquarters, a modest, welcoming two-story building brimming with ingredients, tools, and joyful laughter, sat on the edge of New York City. Yet, the true heart of the foundation still beat within the small community kitchen where their journey had begun. Today, David brought Amara back there, hand in hand, just the two of them. The paint on the walls was fresh now, the windows flung wide, inviting the sunlight. Children, guided by new trainers Amara had personally mentored, were in class, their eager voices a testament to hope. At the back of the kitchen, a quiet room. The very same room where David had once watched her from the shadows, convinced she was hiding a secret. He pushed the door open for her. She stepped inside. And there, mounted above the whiteboard, a small, gleaming gold plaque read, "The Amara Okonkwo Nourishment Room, where every meal matters." Amara stood frozen for a moment, then her fingers, almost reverently, traced the letters. "I don't deserve this," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You do," David said softly. "You always did." A long, peaceful silence settled between them, warm and profound. Then, Amara turned to him, a quiet smile gracing her lips, tears glistening in her eyes. "My only regret is that I didn't tell you sooner how much I loved you." David stepped closer and gently kissed her forehead. "I knew," he whispered. "I felt it long before you ever said it." That evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in soft golden and pink hues, David and Amara stood by the car, packed with bags and passports. Their honeymoon awaited, Hawaii, a place neither had ever been, but both had always dreamed of. Before they got in, Amara looked back at the humble building, the kitchen, the plaque, the place where it all began. "Ready for the next chapter?" David asked, his voice filled with anticipation. She took his hand, her smile deepening, and replied, "Born ready." They got in, closed the doors, and drove away, toward love, toward purpose, toward forever. Don't forget to like this video if you were inspired. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that love truly does lead the way, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that redefine what's possible. Let's keep this conversation going, because every act of kindness, every leap of faith, helps us build a more compassionate world together. Thank you for watching.
Hello guys, I hope you enjoyed our stories. Please hit the like button, leave a comment below and subscribe to our channel.